Hey everyone, this is Jove with Jove's Gaming Lounge, and I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to set up Duckstation, the PS1 emulator. So first thing you want to do, I'm going to link the site. This is the GitHub for the developer of Duckstation, and here we have listed out all the recent releases of Duckstation. We're on Windows. You want to click on this one here, Windows x64 release, and this is what I have on the desktop. What we'll do is right click on it. You can use the extract all. I like to use 7-zip. We're going to extract it to its own folder on the desktop. There it is. This application actually does not need to be installed. It runs as a portable, so here it is. What we're going to do now is we're going to run Duckstation. Here it is. There is a no GUI version also. It would be this one. However, I feel for setting up the application, this version works best. We're gonna go into settings, and these are the settings for Duckstation. Seems like a lot, but there's not much here that you need to change really just to make this work. Under general settings, these are all preferences. You know, if you wanted to start in full screen, go for it. You know, if you wanted to pause on focus loss, go for it. That's all preferential here. What is needed here is the BIOS. So it's asking for these three regions, and I actually have the BIOS for each three region right here. A CPH 1000, 1001, 1002. These are the three regions of the PS1. We're gonna open it in Explorer, and we're gonna find that folder that we need to place these BIOS into. It's going to be under Documents, Duckstation, BIOS. So let's take this BIOS folder that we have here, copy the content over, and there it is. We're going to refresh the list, and you can choose it here, or you can let it auto detect. Auto detect works perfectly fine. Console settings, choose your region. Personally, that's up to you. Enable 8 megabit RAM. Now this is pretty tricky because it actually won't work with every game. What it does, it turns the emulator to emulate the development console. As it says down there on the description box, it enables an additional 6 megabits of RAM, and usually present on dev consoles. Games have to use a larger heap size for the additional RAM to be usable, and may break games which rely on memory mirrors. So know what you're doing if you're going to click that on. Everything else here seems to work fine. You're going to change the emulation speed. Certain games won't work with this. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one game that pops up a lot where you can't really change the speed of the read speeds. So all of this, I'd just leave alone. It works perfectly fine this way. Under emulation settings, you'll have your emulation speed. You'll have your fast forward speed, which you can bind to a hotkey, which we'll get to later. Same with turbo. You can enable rewind here, and you can choose your preferred amount of time for rewind. Games list. This is another area where you can add your games. Search directories will be scanned for games. We're gonna hit plus, and I have this on the desktop here. We have a few games. Now, previous versions didn't support this format of the PBP, which is a compressed format for PlayStation 1. Here we have a game that just has the regular bin queue. However, now since this is supported, I'll be using all of these games with Duckstation. And we're just gonna click desktop, click on games, and select the folder. Would you like to scan the directory recursively? That means if you add games later, it'll takes more time, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that. All of our games now show up on the list. Hotkeys, and this is where you can, all preference by the way, set up your hotkeys. I personally just use whatever's there. Control settings. Now this is pretty interesting because you actually don't need to do too much. I have an Xbox One X controller plugged in, so we'll go to analog controller, and we'll load a profile here and click on Xbox controller. and it already has the controller pre-mapped, which is pretty cool. All you have to do is just keep moving. Memory card type. We're in the memory card section now, and this is one feature that I truly love. It is a separate card per game title. So each individual game will have its own memory card, and you'll never have to run into the dreaded memory card full. Although it's not much of a big deal with an emulator, because you can just create a new card and feed it through. And we'll move on. Next setting is the display setting. Now, here, this is just another area where I'm going to say it's preferential. If your hardware can support it, pick it. There's a lot of older hardware that does not have Vulkan support. Does have D3D11 and OpenGL support. Pick whatever works for you. I personally jump between D3D11 and Vulkan. As I got a Radeon card, OpenGL doesn't work so well on it. So I jump between these two depending on the game. If performance seems a little slow on one or the other, I just, try it out, trial and error. For this example, we're going to keep it on D3D11, as the developer has said that D3D11 works best on the computer or your PC, your Windows PC. The adapter, I got an RX Vega, and full screen mode. You could go borderless, you could go full screen. Totally up to you. All preference. And these are other preferential settings as well. You do optimal frame pacing. This is probably the only setting I would turn on. Although, read the bottom, it always gives you a nice little descriptor of what these options are in case you do want to turn these things on and off. Just right off the bat, everything is pretty much pre-configured to just pick up and play. Everything else is pretty much preferential, like I've said. There's a lot of preferential settings here. You can choose the game native aspect ratio here. You can go 4:3. You could go 16:9 as a 20:9 as well too, or keep it par 1:1 to whatever screen you're on. This is overscan cropping. You can downsample to native if you upscale. You have integer upscaling here, linear upscaling. I actually don't like linear upscaling, so I'll turn that off. Let me see. You have a show FPS, show on-screen display messages. You show the game frame rate because these two are different. The display refresh rate would be whatever display output is putting out. So if you have it on borderless full screen, it's gonna go to 60 hertz. However, I have a 144 hertz monitor. I also output it to 1080p 144. That would be the FPS displayed, but the in-game frame rate is different. Certain games run at 20 to 30, and very few games run at 60. So this will tell you which games are running 20, 30, or 60. And you can detect, drops in frame rate due to performance as well. You can show your controller input for those who want to show your controller inputs for certain tricks. You can show resolution and the speed. But this will tell you as well right here if you're dropping in performance. So if you're ever seeing that your game is lagging or stuttering so hard, you can go there and it'll tell you, hey, you're under 100%. Enhancement options. This is where you can change resolution and add your filters. I typically go by this. I'm on a 1080p monitor. However, if you upscale, it's not much of a performance hit for me. It could be for you. So play with this, see what looks better on your hardware. Every hardware is different. I don't know what you have, so I can't tell you definitively play with this because, it looks better. Some people can only go up to 720 and we can't control that. So for me, I'm going to pick 5X 1080p. This is not needed, although I'll use it. Why not? Texture filtering. This is a big topic of debate. People like their pixels, or people like to see this thing just, and preferential. I'm going to leave it nearest neighbor here. True color rendering. This disables dithering. So if you don't like the dithering effects of PlayStation, turn that on. I'll turn that on. This is where you can get your widescreen hex for the games that support it. And this right here, Runs the software renderer in parallel for VRAM readbacks on some systems. This may result in greater performance when using the graphical enhancements with the hardware renderer. Right here, this is pretty interesting. Disable interlacing and you'll force progressive scan. So those games that are 480i drops it down to 240p so that you can get a better upscale on them and it won't look as blurry. You can force NTSC timings on PAL games, so those games that are meant to run at 50 Hz run at 60 Hz. Force 4.3 for 24-bit displays. This is for the full motion videos. And chroma smoothing. This is also for the FMVs. It will smooth out those blockiness, the artifacts you'll see from those low resolution video files. PGXP, very popular. Just turn it on. And this can help at times too, but we'll just leave it on like that, as is. Post-process settings, fully optional. Just enable this and pick whatever you like here. This is fully up to you to experiment and figure out what you like. Audio settings, I typically tend to the default. As if you're having any issues, come here, change a few things. Typically increasing the buffer would help if you're having a lot of audio crackling. It will introduce a little bit of a delay in the sound, but it won't crackle as much. That's my only bit of advice here in the audio settings. You can log into retro achievements here, which is pretty cool. You can enable achievements so you can have something to play for. And in the advanced settings, these are Tinker's territory. I won't get too much into it. You can see a few options here. You know what you're doing, feel free. If you don't, no need. And with that, we can just go ahead and launch a game here. And I do want to say, for those asking about a BIOS, simply do this. Get on Google, PS1 BIOS, search, and a lot will show up. It's very simple. Same for the games. Just do that, same thing, PS1 games, and be very careful on those sites. Make sure you have a antivirus, or just look around for trusted and reputable sites where you can acquire your games. We cannot provide that information here on YouTube, so it's just best to start looking around. So let's go ahead and get into some games here. I'm gonna first start with Jackie Chan Stuntmaster. So here we go, we have the game launched, and in the beginning right here we see a full motion video. So it is upscaled to 1080p and it does its best to reduce that blockiness. Let's go ahead and shift into full screen now.
I want you to take this package to this address. It is very important.
And if you notice on the top right hand side, you can see that this FMV is actually a 15 FPS video.
Don't worry, grandfather. I'm on my way.
All right, let's go ahead and skip this and jump into some gameplay.
Chinatown. Here goes nothing.
That this game is working perfectly.
Please don't leave me.
And what we'll do is hit Alt Enter, exit the full screen mode, and we can just power it off. Cool thing about this is that when you hit that power off button, it actually kind of saves your state as well. I wanted to jump back into the game. I'll highlight the game and hit resume. This is a loading state. It does this with every game you power off. However, I do believe there is an option to disable this feature. Now what we'll do is we'll jump into another game. And here in the hotkeys, we have fast forward. You don't want to sit around and wait. Let's hit that. Hold the button. Here we go. We're in the menu screen. We're gonna full screen it again.
Round 1, fight!
All right, so another cool option that we have here is we can enable some cheats. So this comes with some pre-installed cheats from the GameShark database. And I do believe that a lot of the cheats activate immediately. So in this game, for instance, we can go and do... I'm going to try to unlock everything. Absolutely everything unlocked. We'll just close that. Here the mode is unlocked. We'll go to arcade mode. All the characters are unlocked. And this is on a per game basis. So you'll have to see if your game has these available.
Round 1, fight! Round 2. Fight. KO. You win.
All right, and there you have it. This is Duckstation on Windows. Stick around. I will have a Linux version as well coming out for this. If you enjoyed or learned something here, give the video a like, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.